Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar on how to address a potential decrease in client base and revenue due to COVID-19. We've had a pretty overwhelming response to this one, including all your questions. So thanks so much for getting back to us with those. Really thrilled today to be joined by Brad. We've had Brad on before in a couple of these events, and having started and sold his own accounting firm and now being a business development coach for accountants, he is really well placed to talk on this topic. So thanks, Brad, and welcome to today's webinar.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me on again. I'm just having a flick through the attendees. Good to see a few familiar faces in there. So hello to all of you that I have seen and met before, and those that haven't, hello for the first time. Hopefully we cover off on a few things today that give you some insights and some direction for today's topic.
Fantastic. So what I wanted to do was just to feed back to you a little bit of the state of play of what you guys are saying to us. We asked you a couple of questions when you registered, and I thought it was really interesting to let you guys know what the wider community is feeling. So the first one was, are you concerned about losing clients? And the response is pretty overwhelming. So over 70% of you said yes, concerned to very concerned. And obviously a whole lot of factors came out of the back of that, including, the main ones were, biggest one, reduction in income and revenue. So obviously for you guys, this is pretty massive for you because it has a whole lot of flow and effect. So impacting your cash flow, potential for having to cut costs, definitely a lot of mentions of maybe what would happen to your staffing levels, were they right for sort of the new economic climate that we find ourselves in, and obviously loss of clients. It's a sad fact that some clients that are here currently, their businesses may not survive or very much look different than they did in the future, which obviously, brings us to the need to attract new clients. So, Brad, I know that you're talking to a lot of accountants, on a daily basis. What are you hearing? What are you seeing out there in the market?
Yeah, what we're seeing on the screen here in regards to the percentage split and those 5 or 6 factors that were the main themes from the feedback we got, which by the way was quite a bit of feedback, which was a nice sample size. But for me, I guess there was no big surprises in there. That was, I've got my finger on the pulse of the market, talking to a lot of practitioners. That's the feedback that I'm getting, and that's what I would expect in these current circumstances. So rest assured, all of you that are resonating with a few of those points there, you're not the only one. That's how most people are feeling at the moment. And in fact, before Charles and I had a look through all of the feedback, we had the idea on what we were going to speak on today, which was already very much aligned with the answers that we've got. So what we've actually done is, I guess, finessed the topics just so we're talking to the issues and concerns that you've specifically brought up.
Yeah, and I think, as Brad was saying, 3 sort of themes really began to make themselves apparent from all the feedback, and I've just selected a really small sample size, but one that I thought, selected a small number of examples, but one that I thought really represented the overwhelming sort of theme. So the first one was connecting and working with your current client base. This is obviously a really big topic, and Brad and I, funnily enough, did actually address this in a webinar we did about a month ago. So I'm just going to paste that into the chat box now, and I'll just send that. Oh, is that going to work? There we go. So that's actually linked to the webinar, and that was very much on communicating and working with clients in turbulent times. So do take a look at that if you've got some time. So the second theme we saw was all about pricing. So it's understandable, a lot of your clients out there, small businesses in general, are under a huge amount of pressure. And obviously the government in both New Zealand and Australia is doing what they can. But we have to realize that they're under pressure, and so this obviously then will impact how you feel about your services, what you can charge, what you can price. Brad's got some really good thoughts on strategies around that. And then lastly, as we sort of noted before, finding new clients. So whether that's because some of your clients are no longer solvent, or maybe the billings from them have reduced massively. I think we find ourselves in a pretty unique situation whereby accountants and bookkeepers have to be much hungrier and much more active in terms of getting new clients, because the market isn't as stable as it used to be. And again, we've got some really nice thoughts and strategies for you on those. So I'm going to hand over to Brad. He is he does this every day with his clients. So I'll chime in where I can, but Brad, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Charles, for the intro. Really resonate with those particular themes, which I'll be touching on in the next, I guess there's probably 3 main slides that we're going to be going through. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. And we've got a lot of questions that have already been sent in, but by all means, please pop into the chat or the Q&A. Any questions that pop up along the way, we'll do our best. We have got truckloads, but I want to focus on delivering to you some direction and hopefully some gold nuggets that can give you some insights and some distinctions and some direction. So the 3 areas we're going to be looking at now is you're going to have some clients that have already left to go to other firms, or they could be a flight risk. Secondly, what do you do with your current clients that you've got? And thirdly, how do we attract some new clients? So they're quite big, chunky topics. I could spend an hour on each of them very easily. So I'll give you some high level ideas and strategies around them, and then I'll drop in with some specifics. But by all means, please shoot through your questions, or we can follow up the conversation after this. So one answer to the questions we asked when you had to register jumped out quite a lot, which was one person said they had an approximate loss of 15% of their client base. So if that particular person's on the call today, I'm sure you're feeling the pinch on the back of that. I guess you'd have to put some context around that in regards to the size of the firm, of the particular clients that you lost. Is that a big business client? Is that, a group of individuals, so on and so forth. But that's a good indicator, and probably one of the bigger ones, of an accounting firm taking a little bit of a hit at the moment. And so I guess what I've been finding is there's 2 types of avatars. Some by choice and how much action they're taking, some by how they were already set up to better handle the last 8 to 10 weeks just by default. So I've just given them some names, the Basic Bob and the Savvy Sam. And the Basic Bob is the sort of person that is really struggling at the moment. They're not online. They're not moving online. They're not really supporting their clients because they just don't have the leverage. They will be working hard. There's no doubt about it. And don't take the Basic Bob name as their mentality. And not supporting clients and probably struggling to get new clients. It's probably not even on their radar at the moment. So they're basically struggling on all fronts, but they haven't accepted what is going on and what has happened and taken let's say, a pragmatic approach and gone, right, what do I have to do and how do I adapt? Whereas your Savvy Sams, they may have already been doing a lot of this already, and that just by default, they're already a little bit better attuned to adapt, because they don't actually really have to adapt that much. If you're already doing webinars, if you're already using Zoom for a lot of your meetings, if you're already using something like Slack or Microsoft Teams to communicate, online document management, paperless office, so on, so on, so on. Not only does that help you run a better business in good times, it's allowed you to run a business almost, take that as a grain of salt, almost business as usual at the moment, just because you already had those assets in place. So the Savvy Sams, they're running webinars, exactly what we're doing here. Using these to also support clients that potentially can't pay you. How can we still help without you doing a whole lot of time that you're never going to recover? They're running weekly updates. They're sending broadcast emails out. They might have segmented lists. If they're using something like BOMA, they might be able to send specific messages to business clients, specific messages to industry clients. If you've got, if you had, say, a large amount of tourism clients and also some other industries, well, you might want to send specific messages to the sectors. And they're already set up for current conditions by default, but they're accepting and bringing in new clients because they might already have the capacity and the ability to do it, but also looking longer term, they are facing now or in the very near future a decrease in revenue and client base. And the questions going through your head is, what do I do about that? And if revenue comes down but costs are the same, we know what's going to happen. So do I look at bumping that revenue back up again, or do I need to make some cost cutting? There's no silver bullet. There's no answer for everyone. It could be one, the other, a little bit of both. So let's jump into, one more point on that is no firm is the same. Okay. Some of you are different sizes. I'm looking through the attendee list and I know there's some firms here that are quite big, multiple partners. I know some others where it's a one-person business or just a very small team. You've got different client base size, different industries that you focus on, different demographics within. I call it the bag of licorice, all sorts. That might be an Australian only term, I'm not sure, but it's a bit of a mixed bag, right? That's what I tend to see. So this slide here, you've got clients that could be a flight risk. Some have already left, some may be leaving. What I'm finding just through a lot of conversations, so here's some insights for you, is that in the past, clients tend to be very sticky. You already know that because your clients hang around every year, especially with a compliance perspective. You build a book of compliance clients, and even if you don't do a good job, I'm sure everyone on here today does an amazing job, but even if you didn't, they still tend to hang around. You might muck a job up, they hang around. You don't communicate to them all year, they hang around because someone has to do tax every year, and they forgive you for a lot of stuff. That's changed right now, and I've found that it's changed. And that stickiness and that loyalty, I think it's really diminished. And that's because a lot of business owners are panicking and they're scared. And so they need a lot of help and support. And if they're not getting it, they're going to go somewhere else. And I'm actually seeing it happen. And I've got a personal story of that, of one of my best mates, Steve, who runs a really good business. He's been banging on about how good his accountant is for years and years and years. And I spoke to him not too long ago when he brought up, hey, I actually changed accountants. And I went, really, what happened? And he said, they weren't getting back to me. I wasn't feeling the love. I was getting no strategies on what to do next. And I was saying, I think he was talking to his brother-in-law, who said, why don't you chat to my accountant? And they had a quick conversation. And he said, I should have moved to this guy years ago. Like, he's back to me straight away. He's offering ideas and strategies. He's helping me. He's connecting me to people. And that was all it took. He must have been with this other accountant for 10 years, I would say. Bang, that one phone call, gone. So that's something to be aware of at the moment. You might have already experienced it, or you might be feeling that might be something that may happen to us. So In the next couple of slides, the ideas that I'm going to be sharing are going to help you a lot with that. But the first one is look at improving your customer service so they are more inclined to stay with you. You would be amazed how much your clients almost value a great experience and a great customer service over potentially how much you charge them. So I'll give you a good example is that I've had personal feedback from when I was in the industry. We didn't really muck around with our price, and I'll be talking about price in a second. And a lot of clients would say that we know we can get this service done cheaper elsewhere, okay? But your service and the experience that we have here it's just too good. We don't want to leave. And so basically what the feedback was we're happy to pay more and pay a premium, not because you know the tax legislation better, or you know how to lodge a return quicker, or anything compliance related. It's specifically from a client experience perspective. And that probably comes back to that saying, I'm trying to think of it on the fly here, which was people don't know. I think it's people don't remember what you do, but people remember how you make them feel. I might have messed that up a little bit, but it's definitely people always remember how you make them feel, and they take that and they talk about that a lot. So I've got a great article. I might drop it in to the chat a little bit later on the idea of, I think, amazing customer service is a big pillar element to running a remarkable firm. It's also why clients will love you and stay with you. They don't always love your technical expertise. You love your technical expertise, and that's why they come to you. So, Charles, let's jump to the next slide. And this is around talking about clients who have decreased in size and billings, and what are some things that you can do. So one of the biggest takeouts from the questions that you answered was you have faced a decrease in how close you work with a client, how much you can bill your client, and you've also lost clients. So I was going to say this point last, but I feel like saying it now. You're going to have clients that are going under. Okay, they have gone under, or they're about to go under, and there's collateral damage from COVID. So you've got a bit of a responsibility to help them wrap things up, to maybe hand them over to an administrator to sort of see things out. You want to be there for them to help and support them. So there's a bit of empathy, there's a bit of love and support there. And so that there's two moving parts there, right? You're helping the client even though their business is coming to an end, but you're also aware that is going to be affecting me long term. So you're almost balancing two emotions, right? You're trying to help someone that's in this time of going down, but you're also aware that you're going to be feeling the pinch on the back of that. So what I'm about to talk about, it's not from a real take advantage of people, capitalist, unethical, unmoral approach. Not at all. I want you to be putting heaps of emphasis on that and be helping people where you can. But you also need to put your own oxygen mask on first. So it is a little bit of a juggle, but I think it comes from what's your intention. So what's the place that you're coming from? Just always keep that in mind. And I don't need to talk about this too much with accountants because they're always there. They're always the one helping their clients. I'm sure the amount of pro bono work you probably did in April, and you might even still be doing, would be enormous. And you're not doing that because you don't want to charge clients. You're doing that because you want to help them and you want to be there in their time of need. And, I definitely applaud you for doing that. So what can we do right now? The first thing I want you to keep in mind is setting up some boundaries. Okay. I think April was a big month of very low billables, but that can't go on forever because you're also running a business and the business tends to be around your time. I find in working with firms, we need to get your time right and boundaries around your time. And once we've got that right, we can sort out the financials and the numbers quite easily. But until you get controls around your time, the rest is going to be very difficult. So set some boundaries specifically around clients that are going under. You want to be there and you want to help them, but you can't just be sitting on the phone all day with them every day. They call and you're picking up the phone. So set boundaries, turn off push notifications on your phone. That is just a no-brainer, business 101. Your phone is a distraction monster. So we want to be looking at more leveraged approaches around communication, which if you check out that webinar that I did with Charles about a month ago, we drilled down into a lot of detail. I'll be touching a couple of those points here because I think you need to be reminded of them, and I'm happy to keep banging the drum and say, this is what you should be doing in best practice. So set up some boundaries around time. You can't keep giving free advice forever. We'll talk about pricing in a second. In regards to communication, you can be doing things exactly like what Charles and I are doing right now. We've put on an educational webinar. We've gathered feedback from all of you. We've put some time aside before this to dial it in. We've got a number of attendees on the call. And now, Charles, if I was to have this conversation one-on-one with every single person on the list here, it would be probably two weeks minimum of just back-to-back calls. As opposed
not efficient or scalable like that, is it?
Yeah, it doesn't. And a lot of firms have done a great job of adapting and are running educational type webinars at the moment. Now, they don't have to be super polished. So if you've got a particular piece of content or topic that you think is super relevant at the moment, excuse me. So one would be cash flow. One would be business recovery planning. So as we come into this next phase and trajectory, that's sort of like what feels like what's happening. Some education around that. I'll go specifically on that in a moment. Cash for obvious reasons. An update just on what is going on with all the government and ATO and IRD support, because a lot of accountants are struggling to get their head around it. Small business owners just have got no idea. So how can we give them some leveraged updates like this? You're going to have one-on-one calls on the back of it for sure. But what if I could answer one person's question and 50 other people had that exact same question? Well, instead of it being asked 50 times by 50 people, I'm asked once by one person and 50 people learn from it. It's just quite basic leverage. And by sitting here and, you can see our faces, yes, we're not all in the same room, but it's a little bit more personable. So it's just such a no-brainer approach. I don't know how many times I'm going to keep banging on about it, but I want you to be doing them. Another way you could think about doing them is opening for Q&A at the end. So what I want you to consider is, what if you just open for Q&A and you had to sit on Q&A for an hour? What if we entertained that idea? Well, the questions that you're going to answer in bulk, in a batch, in one go, that a lot of people are probably going to learn from, or some people mightn't even know to ask. Someone might ask a question that someone else is sitting there going, well, that's a really good question. I ran a Q&A yesterday for a little coaching group I've got, and some of the accountants in there are asking questions that I hadn't even thought to ask. And that's the power of getting that mastermind, quasi-mastermind in a Q&A together, because other people can learn from it. So you might think, but an hour and a half on a Q&A, geez, that's an hour and a half. Well, if each individual phone call is, let's say, 20 minutes to half an hour each, that's technically only 1.5 hours is only speaking to 3 clients. Whereas if you had 50 clients on a webinar and you're able to do Q&A for an hour and a half, you can see the point I'm trying to make here. It's super leveraged. Right, so communication, out of office emails, I'm finding that I get a lot of them back from accountants and they're very direct and brutal along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, we're busy, we're out of the office, we'll get back to you when we can. The language there is a little bit brutal. I know that's not what you mean, and you're probably thinking that's not what ours sounds like, but a lot of them, that's how it's sort of coming across. So an out of office email is real estate, okay? And you can build something to, not advertise, different webinar, but you can talk about something on an out of office email. So what am I talking about here? What if you put a little update every week in your out of office, which means you would just have to update it every week? And it could be about, you could drop a link in there for an upcoming webinar you've got. You could put a link in there to maybe a new article or blog or a topic that you find would be useful for your clients. You could drop a Loom video in there, LOOM, if you haven't heard of a Loom before. It's a free to / super cheap, like $5 a month software where it can record your screen, or it can just record a webcam like this. And it automatically uploads it and saves it, and then you can just send the link to someone. And that's something that you could dump in and out of office. And what about you entertain the idea of updating that weekly? Even if it was only 60 seconds, even if it was, hey, here's an update that we don't have an update. I call it the update when there's no update. You're still giving people a little bit of an update that not much has changed this week. This is what's going on. We're probably going to be back in the office next week. We've been maintaining our get back to you within 48-hour timeline that we wanted. I'm riffing here, but it's just a little bit of a personal update there. And it's one to many. It's very leveraged. Everyone that emails you is going to get it and get it and get it, get it. So that is in regards to out of office. You could also do a weekly Loom update. I know I've got a couple of my coaching guys on the call today, and they know that for about 8 weeks back to back, I did just a weekly Friday before I closed off. I hit Loom. I recorded I made a couple of notes. Here's maybe three things that I want to talk about, and just gave them a bit of an update. Now, I didn't get heaps of responses back or questions back or anything, which was fine. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted to say, hey, I'm here. I'm thinking of you. Keep this in mind. Keep, a bit of support. And I know they were watching it, and I was able to, I guess, to contribute a little bit to them. Also, some firms are really making the use of Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups. So again, it might depend on your clientele. But there's an opportunity to get everyone in one place where you can put all of your updates and everyone gets them. You know what it's like in a Facebook group? Everyone gets a notification when you post something new. You can also just hit live and jump on a Facebook Live. That might be out of everyone's comfort zone a little bit, but I think we're all out of our comfort zone at the moment. So just another idea to keep in mind for leverage. Right, business recovery planning. This will touch on how to help existing clients, but also keep the idea open here for attracting new clients. So I do a little bit of work with a business called The Gap, as does BOMA. They provide systemized business development software to accountants. And they just launched a business recovery planning module that was absolutely fantastic. So what this service would be providing to clients is putting in a plan for a sustainable business for the new normal, or as I've been calling it, not business as normal. We're almost going back now to business as abnormal. So what does that look like? And let's not rest on our laurels that, okay, well, by 30 June, we're just going to be back to how it was. That's an assumption, and probably not a very good assumption. Business recovery planning, you will be looking at focusing on more of an organizational review. So discussing with the client every single department in the business and how it's working and what needs to be done over a shorter time frame. So sort of in, I would say, 12-week cycles is what you would be looking at the moment. discussing, identifying, and putting some ideas in place to mitigate risks with your clients. Also being a sounding board for them. Okay, so what if you were to have quite regular conversations with them, even a monthly chat? Some might even need it fortnightly. And I want them, and I want you to want them to use you as a sounding board to bounce ideas off you, because you have financial management expertise that's just exponentially better than any skills that they have in financial management. They've got deep content around their particular industry and what they do, but you're able to sort of bring a lot more structure and, I guess, better insight into the decisions that they're going to make, how it's going to affect them and play out for them, and be a bit of a sounding board, because people are at home or they're on their own and isolated and lonely. You can be helping them with short-term forecasting. So you don't have to go out and do a big, massive type forecast with the massive financial model. Some clients will need that, but I think the majority, it's going to be around a shorter-term 3-month type cash flow forecast on what we think things are going to look like and what decisions can we make. So you're having discussions around short-term cash flow and what future cash flows look like. And you want to be optimizing for cash flow. That's what you want to have in mind. So business recovery planning plus cash flow plus some type of coaching / sounding board / accountability check-in. That's how you want to be working at probably the top 3 things right now. And that may change if we did this webinar in 30 days, just because the grounds are moving. That's what I would be doing if I'm in practice right now. In regards to pricing, you need to move back to your pre-COVID pricing now. You can't continue at a discounted rate or at a no rate forever. It's not fair on you. Your clients probably also don't expect it. Okay, you might have one client that chucks a wobbly, but what about all the other 99.99% of clients that expect it? They're running businesses, you're running a business, you've already given them a massive chop out already in what you've done. You need to pull back. You need to go back to your pre-COVID and your normal pricing. You might do your webinars for free, just like this, and you might have like a basic free business recovery plan type action list you might give to them so they can do it themselves. So you're still contributing and giving them something, but you're not throwing, the baby out with the bathwater, and you're also not just you're not giving people an intravenous line to your smarts whenever they want it. That's the point that I was looking for there. So in regards to all the pricing questions, you need to go back to your pre-COVID pricing, because you're going to be feeling the pinch and you're probably getting smashed with it. That's going to be the reason why. Right. So I guess the 2 main points there for clients that have decreased in size, how to deal with them and work with them at the moment, recovery planning, cash flow, and some type of regular catch up and discussions, and different types of work might fall from the tree there. But also communication is going to be key with working with them at the moment. So Charles, let's go on to strategies to bring on new clients, which is the 3rd slide. So there was a few questions asked around how can we differentiate from compliance? How can we grow? Where do we go to grow? How do we find new clients? So on and so forth. One of the great things with the accounting industry, which also isn't a great thing, is that it's a sea of sameness out there. Okay. Pretty much every accounting firm looks the same. Now you might say, well, yeah, but my website's a little bit flasher, but it's still quite a sea of sameness. The good thing from that is it's quite easy to stand out and be different. And everyone here probably knows an accountant or a firm that really stands out because they're just very different, or they've got a specific niche. So you might say, you know, there's an accounting firm for car dealerships, let's say, just to pick an idea. They're the go-to firm for that, and everyone knows it. They're not in the sea of sameness. They've got their own sea. So that means it's quite easy to stand out. I know some of the stuff I've already spoken about today isn't rocket science, but not everyone's doing it, or they're only doing it once. So don't do one webinar for clients. Do it once a month. And once we come out of COVID, it's a generalization there, but once we come out, what if you were to continue to do it once a month and you picked a new topic every month? And that was a way you could invite potential new prospective clients in to have a taste test of your smarts and answer questions, and a way you could educate the clients that you've got, plus answer their questions. And it's leveraged. It's 1 hour a month. Just an idea, just throwing out a little bit of a challenge there. Be easy to work with. Okay. I don't know if you've ever gone into a store before and picked up a pair of jeans, and you're walking around with a credit card going, can someone please take my money? And you're almost throwing money at them and you can't get anyone to take your money. Be easy to work with, be easy to access, you know, if you've already got some great tools in place, like, you know, onboarding tools, digital signing tools, engagement and collecting money tools like your, you know, Gap or Practice Ignition or Go Proposal, it just makes the experience a lot better. You know, what if I was talking to a firm the other day and they wanted some ideas about new clients they're bringing on board. And I said, well, when the client comes on board, grab your phone, shoot a quick video, say, hey, Charles, you know, really excited that you're coming on to the firm. Loved everything we've been chatting about. Really interested in starting this, you know, project around the projections of where you want to take BOMA, so on, so on, so on, so on. We'll be in touch soon. Done, send. You don't need to edit it. You don't need just literally hit it, bang it. No accountants do that. Okay. So that's really going to, one, give Charles an experience where he's going to go, that's the reason why I decided to join Brad Turville Accountants. And it's also going to stand out. He's probably going to tell his mates. So
hyper-personalized as well.
Hyper. It took me 5 seconds, you know, and it does, you don't need to be like, oh, I need the fancy ring light and like all the jazz that I've got going on right now. I remember from memory doing it for a client. I was in Melbourne walking through the city. He signed a big proposal to come on board. It was raining and I was under an umbrella, and I still held the phone out and did it because it's real life. And if I was sending something to a mate of mine, like when you send stuff to your mate, you don't get all prettied up and look, you just literally just send them whatever. You can let the whole we need to look a certain way go, because you're not working with businesses. You're a person working with a person. That's it. So being personable. Just looping back to the webinars, if you decide to run them, or whether it's just an update or an open Q&A, make sure you promote them. Okay. Don't just send, okay, well, no one rolled up. I sent an email out and no one rolled up. Send an email every 3 days. Have you registered? Hey, coming along. Hey, you know, I've got Charles talking on this. Hey, we're talking on this topic. You should literally bang on like, because you need to promote it. Not everyone's going to see the emails. Same goes for social media. You don't put one post out and everyone sees it, remembers and actions it. You need to just go over and over and over and over. So highly promote it. Send out, obviously, the email invitations. Reach out to other businesses. Okay, so now we've gotten specific around new clients. Reach out to other businesses that have your client, so non-competing partners preferably, and have a discussion around whether they think their clients will get some value from this. Some of them you're already going to know. Some of them might even potentially be clients of yours. They might be friends, so on and so forth. A little bit like what we're doing right now, right, Charles? You know, we just reached out, we had a chat, we said, hey, here's what I'm finding. Brad, can you talk on it? I said, no worries. And here we are. Doesn't have to be difficult or rocket science. If you're also a part of some Facebook groups, which are super red hot at the moment because everyone's at home and online, You could promote them in there. Check with the admin or the moderator of those groups though, if you're going to do it. Don't just go in and promote stuff and be spammy because you'll get the boot in 5 seconds. My second point here, do a joint webinar. Well, that's what we're doing right now. Both of us get leverage. BOMA's got a whole lot of clients that have got some concerns and questions. I've got a whole lot of insights and expertise around those particular answers to those questions. So it was an absolute no-brainer. One thing I want you to be entertaining at the moment is strategic partnerships. So these are partnerships with non-competing businesses and centers of influence. Okay, so a couple of ideas, and one idea I've got for you here is around marketing agencies. Okay, let's think about marketers. Who do marketers work with? Business clients, right? You're an accounting firm. You want to work with some more business clients because you find they're a better value and a higher average fee, and I get to do some more enjoyable work with them. You want them, and you've already got some. Marketers have already got them, and they also want more. Also, if you look at the 7 ways to grow any business, 2 of those 7 ways are lead generation and conversion. They're marketing activities. So even when you're helping clients grow, if the best thing they can do is focus on generating more leads and converting more of those leads, you're probably not going to have a truckload of ideas and experience how to do it. Marketers only have ideas and experience how to do it. But everything else that goes around it, especially the financial management, pricing, cost of sale overheads, and so on, that's where you've got some expertise. It is such a no-brainer partnership. Also, what type of business invests in marketing? Businesses that want to grow and that are ambitious. What type of clients do you as an accountant want to attract? We want clients that are goal-orientated. They want to grow. They want our feedback. They want us to be a part of it. How do you grow? You invest in marketing. Can you see like all the synergies here that I'm getting at? So I would be reaching out to marketers. Start with the ones that you know, because they're probably finding that a lot of their clients have pulled back on spend. They've paused campaigns. They've dialed back their advertising spend. The marketers will be feeling what you're feeling. What if there's an opportunity here where we can do something together? I would suggest probably starting with a webinar. Why? Because it's an easy, very soft approach. What if we could help put together an educational piece to run for your clients? You then put your webinar together. Like I said, it doesn't have to be rocket science. Pick up what we did today. 3 topics, a couple of points per topic, have a Q&A at the end. Preferably, like what Charles did, was have some questions on the registration. But then you probably don't even have to do too much of the marketing. Why? Because you're giving it to marketers to market. They should be able to eat that for breakfast. So that is one ninja strategy that I've told this strategy to a lot of accountants, and I don't know why everyone doesn't jump. I would be jumping on it like you wouldn't believe. Also look at other relevant suppliers to your target industry. So it could be like a local telecommunications store, like in Australia, it would be Telstra. It could be like an IT company, or it could be like a particular software to the industry that you work with. Again, non-competing, but helping the same person. It could also be like an influencer to the business space. I know the word influencer is a bit, but if there's someone that like in Australia, there's a guy called David Koch, and he does a lot of PR and media, and he's got a business around helping and supporting small businesses, and he's got an enormous following. That would be a sort of person that you want to reach out to. He would probably be open to the idea. I'm giving you a bit of a hint here. I would reach out to him, and in the past I have and done successfully on the back of it. That opens you up to his massive market. So you're thinking a little bit differently and a little bit strategic here around who you can connect with and work with. Or you could go all the way down to something that you might be familiar with, which is like a local chamber of commerce. All a local chamber of commerce does is support their members. What if you could come in with some insights and some education around helping support them? So the key to strategic partnerships, this is the secret sauce to make it work. It's what's in it for them. okay? Not what's in it for you. Because if you come along and say, hey, look, I want you to promote this webinar, we should do this because I want to win a whole lot of clients off the back of it, they're going to tell you to get stuff, right? It's going to be another person coming along like a spam email that you receive saying, give me, give me, give me, give me, not thinking about you. So it starts with a conversation. How are you guys going? Are you feeling the pinch? What are your clients saying? Where do you think they need a little bit of help? That type of conversation, asking good questions, see if it comes through it. And if it was the marketing approach, I'd be saying something like, well, look, I actually agree with you. I think a lot of businesses should be spending more money on marketing at the moment to survive, but also to make the most of, cheaper advertising costs, which is what's being found at the moment. You're then going to be instant best friends with that marketer if you start to say that. And then I'll suggest, hey, what if we just did something quite easy together? The webinar would be the suggestion to get the ball started. Don't go in there and say, hey, refer me clients. It's too direct. It's too many steps down the line. And one more point, actually a couple more points, is associations. Okay, there is an association of everything. There's associations for plumbers and for builders and for architects, and there's marketing associations and accounting associations. If you've got a niche client that you work with or you would like to work with, doesn't matter, approach the association for a couple of reasons. Number one, what's in it for them? All they want to do is help their members. Okay, so if you can come in with some educational insights, even if it's just government support and ATO and IRD type updates, doesn't matter, they're going to be interested. Make it easy for them. Thirdly, their professional development has been probably put online or put on pause in some way at the moment, probably put online though. A lot of their members need to do a certain amount of professional development. They need to get experts to come in and deliver professional development. Here comes Charles from BOMA Accountants, who is putting his hand up saying, hey, I'd like to help you deliver your professional development services to your clients. That's another great one to entertain and ask the idea, and they're going to be up for it because they've got full-time event organizers that are looking for people to talk. The reason most people don't get these strategic partnerships or these association sort of partnerships in place is because they don't ask. That's literally it. If you spoke to an association of, let's say you work with plumbers and you want to help them out and you want to support them, you've got specific insights into the industry, you've got educational content to update them, you are interested and want to help them running events for professional development, they're going to jump all over. I would be surprised if they don't jump all over it because no accountants will really be doing that for them. So there's two good ideas I want you to entertain. Two more before we jump into some questions is join and contribute to Facebook groups. I said it earlier, they're red hot at the moment. So maybe don't go in there straight away and promote. Go in there and people are going to be asking questions that you can answer. I went in one not long ago to test this idea out, and there was hours worth of JobKeeper type financing, stimulus package, pivoting, what do we do next type questions. And no one had contributed to them. And I threw in my 2 cents just for a bit of fun. And I went back and checked it because I wanted to see, I wonder whether any accountants get a sniff of this and then they jump in there and help out everyone. And no one had. And I actually handballed it to a mate of mine who's an accountant and said, here's the hot tip, jump in here. And he got a truckload of conversations off the back of it, simply because, all he was doing was helping. And ask for referrals. So just say, look, I know a lot of businesses are struggling. This is how I would approach it. I know a lot of businesses are struggling at the moment, and a lot of accountants really aren't set up to help all of their clients and really look after them all. Look, if you've got some friends or family that are just like you and your business that you think could get a little bit more help, especially if you're doing stuff like webinars and recovery planning and cash flow, invite them along. Hey, I'd love to have a chat to them about recovery planning. Hey, you should really invite them to that webinar You know, can you shoot an email and introduce me, and I'll share, you know, an update I put together that they might get some value from. It's just going to help you generate some new inquiries. So there's a few higher level ideas in regards to looking after existing clients and attracting new clients. I might have a sip of water and take a breather here, Charles, if you want to jump in.
Oh, just one question from here. Was there a particular Facebook group that you mentioned? I can't remember exactly which one it was.
What was the Facebook group that you used? I can't even remember the context that I said it in now.
We'll get on to some more questions, and if we can,
if anyone remembers that specifically, can you chuck it in just to jog my memory?
Cool. So these questions, so I mean, what we'll probably do, we've only got about sort of 5-8 minutes to go. So Brad, do you want to try and get through as many as you can? And for any other ones that we miss out on, Brad is going to drop his website address in there, so you can always follow up with him directly. So Brad, does that sound good? You know, maybe a sort of a quick glance over all of them, and you can go into more detail if the people are keen offline.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds good. Someone did just ask a question, so I'm just going to throw that in one quick. What was the name of the marketing guy? Koch, David Koch, Koch. I'll chuck it in the chat. David Koch. Of his business off the top of my head. He might be specific to Australia though. It doesn't mean you can't attract some Australia clients to help with, if you're over in New Zealand, to help with recovery planning and cash flow. I'd be, you know, if I was in practice, I'd be taking in work from anywhere at the moment. Sorry. It's also called Koch's Business Builders. Get onto that one as well. That's actually his group, if you can make the connection there. So, Charles, do you want me to just go through these questions as opposed to you sort of asking them? I think it'll just be quicker if I hammer through them. Okay, so how to build clients for JobKeeper work when their revenue has decreased, how to charge. So those first two questions are going to answer together. What I'm finding firms are doing is, and I'm taking this from a coaching group of accountants I actually ran yesterday, what they are doing is they're charging an upfront fee for assessing eligibility. And then there's going to be an ongoing fee for, you know, continuing that assessment and preparing the numbers and doing the lodgements. How do you build clients when their revenue has decreased? Well, you know, if those clients go out and buy petrol, they're paying full rack rate. If they go down to the supermarket and they're buying groceries, you know, they don't go in there and say, I've got a business that's 50% down on revenue. Can I get 50% off, you know, my groceries this way? It's not going to happen. So you need to charge them accordingly for that. If you are running things like an educational update, whether it's a webinar or even if it's just an email. So using BOMA, if you're just putting together a bit of an update saying, hey, you know, here's how you could go and try and do JobKeeper yourself if you want. I wouldn't suggest people do it themselves. I would highly suggest let's not get this wrong. You want to make it get right so you don't have the ATO breathing down your neck if you get it wrong and they're looking to claw it back or whatever. We're experts at it. It's not simple and easy. This is our suggestion. Some are still going to want to do it themselves. Some are maybe going to be so price sensitive, they're going to do it themselves. That's just how it is. Remember, I said it's business abnormal at the moment. So charging an upfront fee to do the assessment and the lodgement. I got some feedback yesterday that some progressive firms, they're generally charging between about $400 and $1,600 to do that, with the average being about $660, I think, plus GST, to give you a bit of a ballpark on having a conversation, working out whether they're eligible or not, and putting it through. And then obviously for the ongoing, there will then be an ongoing fee. How do you ask existing clients to pay extra for much needed advisory services? Well, we're not really asking them to pay extra. What what I would be suggesting is that you're having conversations with them and making recommendations on how we can help better support you, which is probably the real question you're asking. How can we help better support you in these times? And so something like the business recovery planning or cash flow, if I was to help someone with business recovery planning, then there would be a particular fee associated with it. And I'd probably give them two options. Hey, you've taken a lot from this chat or this presentation. You've got a couple of ways you can go from here. This is how simple it can be. I can help you with it, or you can go and do it, and then we'll spend a shorter amount of time together and I'll just review it, or you can just go and do it on your own. Option number one, we do it together. It's going to cost you X. Option number two, you do most of the work and then I just come in over the top and, maybe bill you for an hour and a half worth of work, or you can just go and do it on your own. You're still helping, but you're offering them essentially 3 tiers. If they need a cash flow forecast done for finance, or even just to see what does cash look like, you just need to charge how you would have charged this time last year. That's simple. If they need to have regular catch-ups with you, it's not a quick call. They want like a real financial management type meetings for an hour or 90 minutes once a month. Charge what you would normally charge for it. If you hit the clock with an hourly rate, hit the clock. If you've got a packaged up fee, you usually charge. Again, just think, what would I have done 12 months ago? And do that. How can you get clients to see value if you're just doing compliance? I think that's another hour-long webinar on its own. I have this concept that I call supercharged compliance. Okay. And I think you can do compliance so much better than how it's currently done. And I'm not talking about how you do your work papers or you interpret data or coding, or that's your jazz, right? In regards to reporting standards and tax legislation and preparing a lodgement and so on and so forth. You're already good at that. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is the delivery that goes around it. So for clients to see value in compliance, do you have an annual accounts meeting with them every year? As opposed to sending it out, sign here, you've got to pay this by this date, I'll see you next year. That's how 99% of accounts do it. What if you had an annual accounts meeting around it and you point out a few things? So before you have that meeting, you have a look through the file and go, well, I can see their gross profit has dropped off and their average debtor days have blown out. And it looks like their director loan accounts have blown out this year as well. There's some concerns going on here. And so I'd point them out and then have a discussion around it. And what might fall from the tree is, we're actually really struggling with cash flow. You might say, well, you are, because GP's dropped off, debtor days have blown out. That's where your cash is going. Would you like to see how we could help you with that? And they're going to say yes. Now you're having a sales type conversation around, we can help you and it's going to help you improve your cash. And we obviously get paid for that as well. Also with compliance work, make it a little bit more, make it a bit of a better experience. What if you could put together a great report pack? And there's a lot of businesses now in Australia, there's one like Change GPS, for example, where they put together the annual report pack summary for you. It's got the cover letter, the contents, and everything. I'm conscious of time. It's already 1 o'clock. So I'm just going to quickly finish up here for those that can hang around for a bit longer. There's a few ideas around the compliance work. Opportunities to generate new clients in the current climate. What services should we be promoting? Well, I touched on that today. Cash flow recovery planning, a sounding board, and some educational type regular content, emails and webinars to keep them updated, but also keep an eye on what's happening next, because there might be a new service that's required in 30 days' time that we don't even know we need yet. That's how quick things are evolving. So, Charles, do we want to go to the next questions, or
maybe just do the thing, the one question you think is most interesting from these 4?
Okay, well, how to charge for the work done after the fact. I'm just going to focus on that one. The tourism one's interesting. Whoever sent that one, can you reach out to me personally? Because it's obviously very specific. I just dumped my website in the chat for everyone. How to charge for work done after the fact. Some of them you're just going to have to cop it on the chin. You can't go and do all this work, let's say in April, and now go back and say, oh, by the way, we spent 3 hours together and here's your bill for it. you're going to be losing clients pretty quickly. So clients, unless you've already spoken, you're going to get a bill later. They have an expectation that it's probably been done for free, okay, to help them out. So you might cop it on the chin for that. In regards to ones where, well, we said we would charge, or there usually is a fee for it. Just make sure you communicate it with them first, as opposed to them just getting an email going, "Hey Charles, please see an invoice attached for services rendered." Charles is going to hit the roof. So send an email first saying, "Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we've done." If you think it's a bit dicey, ask them, "Do you think it's fair if we put this together? I know you're struggling, but also we are." You could be a little bit diplomatic with it. Going forward though, don't hide the fact that you're going to be charging what you're charging for. Don't go, "Oh, we'll do it and then we'll just send them a bill." And just hope that's okay. Don't hope it's okay anything. Say to them, "Here's how it's going to work. This is going to be the fee for it. How does that sound?" Or, "Here's how we're going to do it. I'm just going to hit the clock at my hourly rate for it. How does that sound?" That would be my advice there. One more thing that just popped to mind. For some of them, you might have to entertain some different terms. So you might be able to get, $2,000 for a recovery planning session, but you might need to spread it out payable over 4 months, maybe $500 a month. Or they might say, "Can I actually pay this in 60 days time?" So I want you to lock in your price, but be open to terms. Don't have someone come back saying, "Well, I can't afford that right now, so we're just not going to do it." So don't then say, "Okay, we'll do it for 1,500. Go to looking at the terms first. So, okay, well, it's $2,000, but what if we did this around the terms? Much better way to approach it. Most accountants default to, "I'll just drop the price." No, the price is the price. Let's talk terms first. That's all I've got there, Charles.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much, Brad. I think there's some really good questions from our users. And again, thanks to all of you for sending those through. Really fascinating to see how you guys are going. It's a stressful time for everyone out there in the business environment. So thank you so much for taking the time to come and hear Brad and I speak. And look, we are running these pretty regularly, so look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks again, and cheers to you, Brad.
Great. Thanks, Charles.